The icy concrete wall pressed into my spine as the sharp click of a gun's hammer rang through the deserted parking garage. The boss's son, Declan, stepping closer with his face half lost in shadow as he murmured, "Don't scream," the muzzle of his pistol digging into my ribs while he ordered me to hand over the commission check. My hands shook as I reached for my purse. $47,000, the largest commission in company history, 3 months of sleepless nights, non-stop client meetings, and carefully perfected proposals leading to this single moment with a gun jammed into my side. I begged him softly, telling him it was everything to me, but his mouth twisted into a smile that made my skin prickle as he said, "I should have thought of that before outshining Daddy's golden boys," ripping the purse from my hands and reminding me that women like me didn't understand how things worked here. He rummaged through my bag until he found the thick white envelope stamped with the company logo in gold, the check that would have cleared my mother's medical bills, paid my brother's college tuition, and maybe given me enough room to stop living paycheck to paycheck, muttering "perfect" as he slid it into his jacket and warned me to count to 100 before moving, pressing the gun harder as he promised Daddy always chose family over employees. My heart thundered as I closed my eyes and counted, the sound of his expensive Italian loafers fading, a car engine roaring somewhere far away, the garage falling silent by 60 as I slid down the wall, tears pouring, my hands trembling uncontrollably. 3 security cameras stared from different angles, all fake, installed for show, no witnesses, no proof, exactly as planned. When my phone buzzed with a message from my mother asking if I'd gotten my big check, my fingers freezing as I wondered how to tell her everything was gone. The surgery delayed, my brother's future uncertain, Declan's laughter almost echoing through the garage as I sat shattered and humiliated. Yet beneath the fear, something colder rose, a crystallizing rage I hadn't felt since my father abandoned us when I was 12, sharpening my thoughts and steadying my hands as I realized this wasn't the first time, that I'd heard the whispers, read the resignation letters, watched talented women disappear, the pattern now impossible to ignore. As I pushed myself up from the filthy concrete, wiping my tears away, I knew with absolute certainty Declan had robbed the wrong woman, because before Griffin Financial Advisors, I'd spent 3 years working for a private investigator. Before that, I double-majored in accounting and criminal justice. And most importantly, I never kept the real commission check in my purse. If you're as stunned as I was when that gun pressed into my side, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, because this journey isn't just about revenge, but justice in a world where the wealthy think they're untouchable. Leave a comment if someone's ever taken credit for your hard work, and stay to see how this unfolds. My name is Margot Sinclair, 32, single, and before this moment completely forgettable by design, because I learned early people underestimate what they don't notice. And at 5'4" with brown hair usually tied in a simple ponytail, I blended into backgrounds and boardrooms alike, having worked at Griffin Financial for 16 months. The company specialized in investment packages for mid-sized businesses looking to expand, and our commission structure was legendary in the industry, 15% on any deal you closed personally. Most advisors averaged 2 or 3 mid-sized clients a year, earning solid but unspectacular incomes. No one had ever landed Regional Foods before, 42 locations across 3 states, and they had rejected Griffin's proposals 6 times over the past decade. Their CFO was notoriously difficult, their CEO openly skeptical of financial advisors in general, but I noticed something in their quarterly reports that everyone else had missed. A pattern of rapid expansion, followed by cash flow problems my investment strategy could fix. It took 3 months of research, 5 presentations, and countless late nights, but I closed the deal. A $315,000 contract, translating into a $47,250 commission check, life-changing money for someone like me. The morning the deal finalized, people noticed me for the first time. Handshakes, congratulations, lunch invitations I'd never received before. Even Mr. Griffin himself, Declan's father, called me into his office to personally thank me, leaning back in his chair as he said it was exceptional work and asked how I'd pulled it off. I explained my strategy, the patterns I'd identified, the customized approach I'd taken with their executive team, and he nodded, unreadable, before telling me the commission check would be processed that day, and I'd certainly earned it. As I turned to leave, he added something that should have warned me, that his son had mentioned being impressed by my presentation materials and was learning the business. I'd only met Declan Griffin a handful of times. At 35, 3 years older than me, he carried the entitled confidence of someone who had never faced real consequences, appearing occasionally at meetings in suits that cost more than my monthly rent, always looking faintly bored. Everyone knew accounting processed commission checks on Fridays, printed, sealed in company envelopes, distributed by 4 o'clock, after which advisors headed straight to the bank in a ritual of success. What I didn't know then, but learned later, was that 5 other women had left the company in the past 2 years after landing major clients, each citing personal reasons or new opportunities, each departing within days of receiving large commission checks. At 4:15 p.m., I collected my envelope from accounting, deliberately peeking inside and smiling before tucking it into my purse, aware of Declan watching from across the office while pretending to review documents with his father. Tina from accounting congratulated me, saying it was the biggest check she'd processed in years. And I smiled, feeling Declan's eyes on me, saying I couldn't wait to deposit it. When she asked if I was heading to the bank, I replied, loud enough to be overheard, that I had a dinner reservation to celebrate and would deposit it first thing tomorrow, then headed for the elevator with my purse clutched close. The parking garage beneath the Griffin Financial Building had 4 levels, executives on 1, senior advisors on 2, everyone else on 3 and 4, and my assigned space was on level 4, the darkest and most isolated. The moment I stepped off the elevator, I sensed I wasn't alone. The garage was too quiet, the air too still, my footsteps echoing as I walked toward my car with keys clenched between my fingers like a weapon. I was almost there when I heard him, a soft footfall behind me timed perfectly with my steps, and when I turned it was already too late. Declan moved fast, slamming me against the wall with the gun already drawn. What followed, the robbery, the threats, left me sitting on that concrete floor watching him drive away with what he believed was my future. But what Declan didn't know was that I had been watching him for weeks, had recognized the pattern, and had already gone to the bank that morning, depositing the real check hours before accounting handed me the decoy envelope. What he stole was empty, nothing but a folded piece of paper, and the question was never whether I would take revenge, but how complete his destruction would be when I was finished. That night I couldn't sleep, the feel of the gun against my ribs and Declan's voice replaying every time I closed my eyes. Until around 3 in the morning I gave up and opened my laptop, scrolling through the Griffin Financial Employee Directory, names, faces, departments, and the women who had vanished after big commissions. Teresa with the pharmacy chain, Audrey with the restaurant group, Kimmy with the manufacturing client, each gone within days of their greatest success, as I pulled up their social media profiles and began to connect the dots. Teresa was now working in another state for half of what she used to earn. Audrey had completely restarted her life in an entirely different industry. Kimmy's profile hadn't been updated in months. I sent each of them a simple message. Did something happen in the parking garage after your big commission? By morning, Teresa had replied with a phone number and 4 words. Call me. Not kidding. My hand shook as I dialed, and she answered on the first ring. Who is this really? Teresa's voice was sharp with suspicion. Margot Sinclair from Griffin. I just landed the regional foods account, I said, followed by a long pause before I added, something happened in the garage. Declan Griffin put a gun to my side and took my commission check. She let out a slow breath. So he's still doing it. God, I hoped someone would have stopped him by now. You too? I asked. Me, Audrey, Kimmy, and at least 2 others I know, she said. We all stayed quiet. What choice did we have? His father owns the company. The security cameras are fake, and he made it very clear what would happen if we talked. My stomach tightened. Why didn't you go to the police? Teresa laughed bitterly. With what evidence? It's his word against ours, and his father donates to every police charity in the city. One woman tried before my time. The complaint mysteriously vanished. I wrote down everything she told me. The same pattern every time. High-performing women, huge commissions, garage robberies, then resignations or transfers. What did you do? I asked. I ran, Teresa said simply. Took a job 3 states away and started over. What else could I do? I thanked her and hung up. By noon, Audrey had responded with an almost identical story. Kimmy never replied. That afternoon, I walked into Griffin Financial with a bandage on my temple and makeup carefully applied to simulate a bruise, after spending an hour on YouTube learning realistic injury effects. As I limped toward my desk, conversations stopped, eyes followed, whispers trailed behind me. My supervisor, Paige, rushed over. Margot, what happened? I blinked fast, forcing tears. I was mugged last night. They took everything. My purse, my phone, my commission check. Paige covered her mouth. Oh my God. Did you call the police? Yes, I said quietly. They told me there's not much they can do without witnesses or clear security footage. The whispers spread like wildfire, and within 20 minutes, Mr. Griffin himself appeared at my desk, concern etched across his face. Miss Sinclair, may I speak with you in my office? Inside, I noticed how closely his walk mirrored his son's. The same entitled swagger softened only by age. He asked if I was all right, where it happened, whether I saw who did it. His tone carefully neutral as his fingers tightened slightly on the desk when I mentioned the parking garage, level 4. When I said the attacker knew my name and about the check, his eyes narrowed. He suggested it might be an inside job and promised an investigation, then offered to stop payment and reissue the commission. I thanked him gratefully, mentioning my mother's surgery, and his smile never quite reached his eyes as he said, Of course. Family is everything. Declan didn't appear at the office that evening or the next day, and by Wednesday rumors spread that he'd been sent out of state on business. Meanwhile, I dug deeper, using my old PI skills to uncover Declan's gambling debts, complaints from women at clubs he frequented, and a DUI suspension that had vanished from court records. On Thursday, Mr. Griffin personally handed me my replacement check and loudly announced security escorts for anyone receiving commissions. I played the role of the thankful, naive employee, but noticed Paige watching me closely. She pulled me into the break room and warned me in a low voice to be careful, telling me about a woman named Lynn who'd landed a hospital account 3 years earlier, been mugged in the garage, recognized her attacker, and gone to the police, only for the report to disappear. Second, she was fired a week later for alleged performance issues, no references, blacklisted across the industry. The last Paige heard, Lynn was working retail somewhere. My heart began to race. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Paige met my gaze steadily. Because I was Lynn's friend, and because yesterday, when Mr. Griffin announced the security escorts, I saw something in your eyes. You're planning something, aren't you? The question hung between us. A test, a trap, or maybe an offer of alliance. I just want to move forward, I said carefully. Paige nodded. Good. That's smart. She turned to leave, then paused. By the way, your bruise makeup is smudging on the left side. I froze. What? Where? She gave me a knowing look. I did theater for 10 years. Next time, use setting spray. Before I could reply, she walked out, leaving me stunned. That night, a message finally came from Kimmy. They're watching you now. They know you're asking questions. A chill slid down my spine. I checked my apartment door. Locked, deadbolted, windows secure, Yet I still slept with a chair wedged under the knob and a kitchen knife beside my bed. The next morning, a flower arrangement sat on my desk, the card reading, "Wishing you a speedy recovery." Management. I noticed a new maintenance worker installing what looked like a real security camera in the corner, aimed directly at my desk. Mid-morning, Paige stopped by. "It needs access to your computer for a system update," she said loudly, then whispered, "They're checking your emails and search history." I thanked her with my eyes. When the technician arrived, I welcomed him calmly, knowing my work computer held nothing incriminating. My real research lived on my personal laptop at home. At lunch, an unknown number called. "Miss Sinclair," a man said. "This is Detective Powell. We'd like to follow up on your mugging report." My pulse spiked. I hadn't filed a report. This was a trap. "I'm sorry," I said. "You have the wrong person." A pause. "We have a Margot Sinclair who reported a mugging Friday." "That wasn't me," I insisted. After hanging up, I immediately texted Teresa. "They're setting traps. Someone just pretended to be police." Her reply came fast. "Get out now. Not worth it." But it was worth it. Not just for me, but for Teresa, Audrey, Kimmy, Lynn, and every woman Declan had robbed at gunpoint. That afternoon, Mr. Griffin summoned me again, his demeanor colder. He showed me footage of me making calls at my desk, suggesting I spent too much company time on personal matters. I apologized, blaming insurance calls and medical bills, and when he casually asked if police had contacted me, the trap was almost laughable. As I left, he added that his son would return Monday and wanted to check on me personally. The message was unmistakable. That night, surrounded by notes and plans, I understood they thought they were hunting me, when in truth, I was letting them. Monday arrived heavy with tension. When I entered the office, Declan was already there, laughing by Paige's desk. Our eyes locked. His smile widened as he approached. "Margot, I heard what happened," he said smoothly, every eye on us. "How are you feeling?" I matched his mask. "Much better, thank you." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "We should catch up properly." "Lunch, perhaps?" he said smoothly. "I'd love to hear more about how you landed regional foods." The threat sat between us, unspoken but unmistakable, and I gave a small nod before he walked away, satisfied with his show of dominance. All morning, the pressure of being watched followed me, the new security camera subtly tracking my movements, coworkers stopping by my desk under the guise of casual conversation, my computer slightly disturbed, the monitor angle off, the keyboard shifted. At noon, Declan appeared again. "Ready for lunch?" We rode in his sleek silver sports car, easily worth more than most Griffin employees made in a year, to an upscale restaurant where the maitre d' greeted him by name. Seated in a private corner booth, his demeanor hardened instantly. "Let's stop pretending," he said coldly. "You've been asking questions, reaching out to former employees. That ends now." I played confused. "I don't know what you mean." "Don't be stupid," he snapped, leaning forward. "Here's how this goes. You stop digging. You tell everyone how supportive Griffin Financial has been since your mugging. And in 3 weeks, you accept a transfer to our Milwaukee office." "And if I don't?" His smile turned vicious. "Remember Lynn? She thought she could prove something too. Now she can barely get a job stocking shelves." He took a calm sip of water. "My father built this company from nothing. Our name matters. Yours doesn't. Who do you think they'll believe?" I stared down at my plate, the obedient victim. "I understand." "Good girl," he said, signaling the waiter. "Order. Something expensive. My treat. Call it compensation." During lunch, I excused myself to the restroom and, once alone, sent a pre-written text to an unlisted number. Phase 1 complete. Back at the office, I acted subdued and defeated, exactly as Declan expected. That afternoon, Mr. Griffin summoned me again. "How was lunch with my son?" "Very nice," I said softly. He was concerned about my well-being. "Excellent," he said. sliding a document across the desk. A transfer to Milwaukee. Better role, slight raise, a fresh start. I took the paper, my hands shaking this time not from fear, but restraint. I'll consider it. Do, he said, dismissing me. Over the next 2 weeks, I played my part flawlessly. No more questions, perfect attendance, quiet acceptance of the transfer. Declan relaxed, appearing less often, confident I'd folded. Beneath that compliance, I was assembling the final pieces. The turning point came unexpectedly when Paige cornered me in the garage one evening, nervously checking her watch as she pressed a USB drive into my hand. "I shouldn't do this," she whispered. "But Lynn was my friend, and I can't watch it happen again." "What is it?" "Financial records. I work in accounting. Declan's been embezzling for years, small amounts from client accounts disguised as management fees. His father covers it up." My heart pounded. "Why help me now?" "Because you're not the only one building a case," she said. "And because yesterday they told me my position's being eliminated." I squeezed her hand. "I won't waste this." That night, I reviewed everything. It was the missing link, proof that went far beyond the robberies. 3 days before my transfer, I requested a meeting with Mr. Griffin. When I entered, Declan was already there, reviewing papers at his father's desk. "Ah, Margot," Mr. Griffin said. "Declan wanted to join us. He'll be taking over some of your accounts." "Perfect," I said, sitting. "Actually, there's something I want to discuss, with both of you." Their faces stayed neutral. "I've been thinking about my future here," I began. "We're excited about your Milwaukee move," Mr. Griffin cut in. "Yes," I said evenly, "but I've decided not to accept the transfer." The room seemed to cool. Declan's smile vanished. "That's disappointing," Mr. Griffin said carefully. "Why?" "Because I intend to stay and continue relationships I've built, like regional foods." Declan leaned forward. "Milwaukee would be better." "I'm not going," I said firmly. "And I'm not staying quiet about what happened in the garage." The mask dropped. "Be very careful," Mr. Griffin warned. "I'm not implying anything," I said calmly. "I'm stating facts. Your son robbed me at gunpoint, just like he robbed Teresa, Audrey, Kimmy, Lynn, and others." Declan laughed, hollow and sharp. "You have no proof." "Actually," I said, reaching for my phone, "that's where you're wrong." This was the moment everything hinged on, the culmination of weeks of planning, careful positioning, and letting them believe they still held the advantage. "The night you robbed me, you took an envelope you assumed contained my commission check. But what it actually held was a blank sheet of paper, because I'd already deposited the real check that morning." Confusion flickered across Declan's face as I continued, explaining that after hearing rumors about women being robbed, I'd taken precautions, including wearing what looked like an ordinary silver pen, which I pulled from my jacket pocket. It was a high-definition audio-video recorder, and it captured everything in that garage: his face, his voice, the gun, the threats. Mr. Griffin's face went pale as he accused me of bluffing, but I calmly quoted Declan's own words about outshining Daddy's golden boys and women, not understanding how things worked, his expression betraying him before he could recover. Mr. Griffin tried to regain control, claiming it would be my word against theirs, and no jury would trust an edited video over a respected executive, and I agreed, which was why I hadn't relied on just that. I explained I'd spent the past month building a full case, testimonies from 6 former employees describing the same robbery, financial records revealing embezzlement hidden as management fees, and most damning of all, evidence of systematic cover-ups using company resources to intimidate victims. I placed a thick folder on his desk, telling him copies were already with my attorney, multiple news outlets, and the State Financial Crimes Unit, ready to be released if anything happened to me. The silence was suffocating as Declan looked to his father in panic, and when Mr. Griffin finally asked what I wanted, I answered simply, "Justice." though I was realistic about how the system favored people like them. I laid out my terms: full restitution and damages for every woman Declan robbed, both of them resigning immediately, and the creation of an independently administered trust fund for female employee education and advancement. When Mr. Griffin raged that I was destroying everything over a few commission checks, I told him they had done that themselves, and if they refused, every client, employee, and regulator would receive the evidence by morning. As I stood to leave, Declan grabbed my arm, demanding if I knew who they were in this city, and I met his gaze and said that was exactly the problem. Mr. Griffin pulled him back and asked for time, which I granted until 9 a.m. The next morning, the office was in chaos as news broke that both Griffins had resigned for personal reasons. An emergency board meeting installing Paige as interim CEO, who caught my eye and nodded subtly. A company-wide memo announced zero-tolerance harassment policies, major security upgrades, and the new Employee Advancement Fund, while messages poured in from Teresa, Audrey, Kimmy, and others about substantial settlement offers. 2 weeks later, I sat across from Paige in what had once been Mr. Griffin's office, now bearing her nameplate as CEO, as she offered me the role of Chief Operations Officer, explaining the company needed rebuilding after decades of hidden irregularities. Declan was facing criminal charges. Mr. Griffin had lost everything by cooperating, and I thought about the frightened, humiliated woman I'd been in that garage and how far we'd all come. 6 months later, Griffin Financial was reborn as Phoenix Advisors, our client list growing because integrity proved good for business, Teresa returning to lead client acquisition, Lynn heading compliance, every victim offered a role, and the old garage sold and replaced with a modern, fully secure facility. Sometimes justice doesn't come from courts or police, but from women who refuse silence, who gather evidence instead of hope, who turn trauma into resolve, and if you've ever felt powerless against the untouchable, remember this: the most dangerous person in any room isn't the one with the gun, the money, or the power, but the one they underestimate.